Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Kayla and I make videos about all things BPD. Now, if you have been following along my channel, you will know that I have been releasing videos that talk about the specific symptoms associated to BPD. So today we're really going to be diving into the sixth symptom, which is the one relating to affective instability and how to cope with it. Defined within the DSM as the sixth BPD criterion, affective instability can be defined as repeated and abrupt shifts in mood, and this is really the core pathology associated to BPD. Now, with this specific pathology or symptom, as I had mentioned, it's really shifting mood that can last for a few hours, maybe a day, but this is different than bipolar disorder where we see a fluctuation in mood that can last from 3 to 5 days to a week, and it's a really big divergence in their normal baseline, whereas with BPD, it's rapid cycling in between being irritable, anxious, overly happy, depressed. As we know from research, there exists a lot of different theories as to how affective instability relates to BPD. Now, one of these theories proposes that BPD is a dysfunction of both positive and negative emotions, meaning that the experience of both those spectrums are dampened, meaning, again, that they have a difficulty with not only overly experiencing negative emotions, but they also have a dysfunction in their capabilities to experience positive ones. Another theory proposes that BPD is primarily an expression of negative emotions with a high volatility and variability in the expression of positive ones, meaning that there is a pretty much consistent baseline of negative emotions with fluctuations of positive ones. So what that would look like in someone in BPD, according to this theory, is that we have this person who is, their baseline is being irritable and anxious and depressed, and that it's not actually their negative moods that fluctuates, it's more so that they get bursts of positive ones here and there. And the third theory is kind of the opposite, stating that there's a high variability in the negative emotions. So there's a high reactivity to negative ones, but not so much in the positive ones, meaning that they might have a regular baseline, but because they're hypersensitive to negative memories, negative sensations, the reactivity of those negative, I'm saying that word a lot, but negative emotions is a lot more prominent than the positive ones. Affective instability is impacted by numerous things. So one of them being, for those of you who know what Marsha Linehan's biosocial model is, if you don't, I'll just link a video up above here. But essentially, Marsha Linehan proposed that individuals with BPD are born with a biological predisposition to be sensitive, to be impulsive, and to have less innate emotional regulation strategies or systems. So if we're born with this predisposition to being sensitive, paired then with this overly seeing the negative things in our lives, so whether that's because we're anxious or other factors, and then thirdly paired with our lack of effective strategies to deal with negative affect, this could all bleed into causing an individual to then have affective instability and then BPD, because we know that that is the core pathology alongside with impulsivity. Okay, so how can we help? The first thing, and this is a really crucial first step, is to build awareness of your emotions. If you don't know what you're feeling or how you're feeling, then how are you supposed to regulate your emotions? It's also important to get to know how the sensations and emotions play out in your body. So for example, when I'm feeling anxious, my chest tends to get tight. Okay, so maybe now I know that anxiety is associated to this tightness in my chest. Or typically when I'm feeling irritated or angry, my ears will get warm, or there's other sensations like I get a knot in my stomach. So getting to know the physical manifestation of the emotions is a good first step. You can also look at a list of emotions, so to build up your awareness of the different words associated to emotions, because there's not just like sadness and happiness and anger that exists. There's loneliness, there's jealousy, there's envy, there's being irritable, there's being ecstatic. There's a bunch of different words to describe how you're feeling. So building up those two things, you can do this through the mindfulness practice. So really just getting in tune with what it is you're feeling, where you're experiencing it in your body, looking at the different events that happened around the emotion, so to see if you can tease out specific patterns. I also encourage you to take a curious stance when you're looking at your emotions. You may think, well, I already know how I'm feeling and I felt this way before. But when we take the time to slow down and just imagine that you are a curious scientist who is looking at a phenomenon for the first time ever. You're just witnessing it. You're trying to describe the different colors and textures and sensations with the emotion so that you can familiarize yourself in what it is specifically that you're feeling while doing this with no judgment. Because if we are curious scientists, we're not judging the experience, we're intrigued by what it is. The second thing I would recommend is to use and put into practice DBT emotional regulation skills. I've already talked about these in another video that I'll just link above here, but we could do skills such as the please one, which is treating physical illness, getting balanced eating, getting enough sleep, exercising. So there's different components to this, and dealing with affective instability, it's not just about reacting. It's not just about I'm feeling all of these things and I'm feeling dysregulated and I'm gonna go splash water on my face. Yes, that's a great technique. We also want to do some preventative work to minimize the instances to which we do feel dysregulated. So for example, setting up healthy boundaries could be a really good tool that you could do for yourself. So communicating openly to others that when put in these specific scenarios or when these things happen, I really tend to get this pattern of emotional activation. So maybe if we could work on this collectively. So it's about taking a holistic approach, about getting strategies to help you deal with the big emotions in the moment, while also doing other preventative things such as going to bed early. When you're putting yourself to bed early, you're not necessarily thinking, oh, well, this is going to help me avoid maybe feeling dysregulated tomorrow. But the reality is that it is, because when you're tired, we all know people get grumpy. Just look at kids when they don't sleep well, when they're hungry, when they are tired and they don't want to do something, they get a fit. And that's okay because they're trying to tell us something. And as adults at BPD, we can kind of get in these same instances. So doing some preventative work, taking a holistic approach to your well-being, and of course, talking to someone. So that would be the third thing, would be to really seek help. So a therapist, a coach, a counselor, whatever that looks like for you, just someone who is skilled in BPD specifically and who can help you deal with these big emotions. In addition to making day-to-day life a little bit easier, these skills can also help you build a deeper sense of emotional regulation, which is essentially what we're aiming for. We are aiming to become people who can live in awareness of ourselves, of the environment, of others, who can regulate our emotions effectively so that we can build long-lasting and meaningful relationships with ourselves and others. As always, I'm curious to hear from you in the comments down below. Please let me know some tools or tips and tricks that have helped you with affective instability. If you found this video useful, be sure to give it a like because it is great for the YouTube algorithm, meaning that the more people like this, the more my video gets shared and the more that we help to break down stigma surrounding BPD. On that note, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. I wish you all a wonderful week and I will see you back here next time for another episode of On the Line.